everyone. Welcome back to Love and Lunacy. If you are new here, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for new videos when I post. And I just want to thank everyone for tuning in for this week's video. So we are going to go ahead and get started. This week's topic, we are discussing functional depression. Functional depression is pretty much when someone is experiencing the symptoms or signs of depression, but they're still able to do daily activities and go through the day-to-day motions. More people are susceptible to this than they realize, or they have depression and don't know what the symptoms are, and they think, oh, it's just a part of life, this is just something I'm going through, I'll be fine, and they put these feelings off, which is extremely dangerous. I made a post about it this week, as well as I did a blog post that's up on the website, but I did want to follow up with a vlog just to go into a little bit more detail, and give more examples of what functioning depression is and what it looks like to kind of help identify it. So the signs that you should definitely look for, because most people, like I say, who are living with functional depression, they don't know the signs to look for. So to better educate yourself and to help recognize these signs in a loved one or, a coworker or someone you care about, to help them. So they're not going to see the typical depression signs. So don't go looking for sadness or seclusion. It's typically like key things that can be given away in, say, conversation. If you ask them how they're doing, hey, I'm making it. I'm here. Or typically the responses you'll get from someone who has functional depression, they tend to kind of let things roll and just keep going with the punches, not realizing that these punches are connecting and beating them down and beating them down and beating them down and beating them down. And they don't know until they're too far gone, and they end up with this overwhelming feeling of hopelessness and just feeling defeated and as if they're not doing enough. Like I say, this is something that is extremely common. It's not something that always lasts long term. Sometimes it can be acute and it can be temporary. Like I say, depression comes in many shapes, forms, sizes, whatever you want to call it. Depression is that. There's no way to bottle in what all symptoms or signs depression can create or show, because every person is different and it affects them differently, especially depending on the situations that are arising or that they're going through. It really depends on how a person is going to react to them. So you can see them being really hard on themselves, or they're always in go mode. They just feel like, hey, I gotta keep going, I gotta keep going. They'll tell you that they're tired, they'll tell you that they're exhausted, or, I don't feel like me, but hey, it is what it is. I know that's one of my favorite lines. I am, one of those people who just keep going and keep going, because I feel like if I stop, like, I don't have anything to fall back on. I don't have someone to fall back on. And that's normally the mindset that a lot of people with functional depression have. They feel like, well, if I don't do it, who will? So they have to keep going, and they burn themselves out and they make themselves sick. And they get to this point to where they don't want to do anything anymore. They just want to give up, because it's just like, well, I've been doing all of this and busting my ass and, giving and giving and going. And now I feel as if I've been hit by a Mack truck and I just can't do it anymore. So you definitely want to try to recognize these things before you get too far into it and it ends up destroying you mentally, emotionally, and physically, because that is something that is extremely important to remember, that depression doesn't just manifest itself mentally. It is the biggest part of it, yes, But if your mental is off, it affects your entire being. It affects how you feel about people and situations, life, everything. And that goes to affect your physical because it makes you drained. It makes you tired. It makes you not want to eat, or it makes you want to eat. It makes you want to, say you were working out all the time. Now you don't have the energy. You don't have to get up and go, or the will to do it. So all of these things start to trickle down from this one thing. And that's why it's so important to remember how strong of a hold depression can have on a person. So never underestimate when someone tells you that they're feeling off or they're not feeling okay. You know, listen to them when they're talking and kind of just be like, okay, well, it sounds like, don't try to tell them, well, this is what you have, because no one can give that diagnosis except for, a trained professional. But you can, look at the signs and say, it seems like you may have depression, and reassure them that it's okay, because we all have had these type of feelings, or we all get overwhelmed, and it's completely normal to feel these things. But you have to be able to stop and give yourself time to feel, and whether that feeling may be crying, screaming, anger, if you just need to go to sleep, whatever it needs to be, whatever your self care is for yourself, that's what you need to do. You have to understand that if you don't have anything to give yourself, you absolutely cannot give to anyone else, your children, your spouse, your job, nothing, because you've got to be able to put your mental and your emotional state first, so that you can be the best person you need to be. And I've stated that in other videos, and that's going to always be like a center thing, especially with mental health, is taking care of yourself. Because if you don't, inevitably you're going to crash and burn. And you don't want that. And you don't want someone, you care about to go through that. So you definitely want to try to help others as well as yourself if you see these things starting to occur. And so, look for in a friend if they're not eating the way they used to, or, they're showing up to functions but just not talking or interacting like normal. So it's not necessarily the seclusion, but they are secluding in a way. They're still participating, they're still, hey, laughing and smiling, but when they go home, they're crying themselves to sleep. This is what so many people deal with every single day. And it's just from the everyday stress of life is what creates functional depression. It's not the traumatic experience to where, something life altering has happened and they just get this blanket of sadness. No, this is something that comes from things that are built up. It's day after day, going through these motions, the stress of work, having to get up in the morning, get the kids ready, get them out the door, feed the dog, get to work, deal with work stress, still got to deal with life stress while working, come home, you got to cook, clean, do laundry, be attentive to your kids, help them with their homework, and you never have time for you. And that's what creates functional depression, because you have to keep going, but you also know that you're not happy. You know that you're sad. You know that something doesn't feel right, but you just don't have time to tend to those feelings. So when you start to feel that feeling, you got to take a step back and like, okay, I'm not okay. And let them know around you. Like something that you know, it's something that some people don't agree with, but it's something that I find works for me. I am totally honest with my child. He knows that mommy struggles mentally. And I'm honest with him because I don't ever want him to not be able to recognize the signs, say if he's going through something, or for me to sugarcoat it as if it's something that it's not, because depression is real. Depression is serious. It's not something to be taken lightly. And so I want him to understand there are days where mommy doesn't feel the best, and I'm not okay, because that teaches him how to respond to those type of emotions, opposed to him being like, oh my gosh, well, my mom said she had depression and she got it, but she was fine. She never complained, so you shouldn't complain. Like, you don't want to create a type of, what is it? Like, you don't want to create a wall between what people think. So if you can train your children to understand these emotions at an early age, it makes them empathetic to those when they encounter them. And it's not just even with depression, it's teaching them that sometimes we have bad days, and as parents, we have a lot of them. It's stressful raising our kids, and the world is stressful. So we're constantly carrying around all this weight on our shoulders, and it can get to be too much. And so being honest with your kids, it also helps you, because you're not trying to cover things up or make them, just keep them in the dark. I just, that's just something personally I don't agree with. But like I say, it's to each its own. What works for me may not work for you. All I can do is kind of advise you on the situation. That way, when you are feeling off or going through it, your kids will kind of be like, okay, let me take it easy. Let me just give mommy a little time. Let me give daddy a little time to kind of gather themselves. And it makes all the difference in the world, because sometimes your kids are just on you, like white on rice. They will be on you and you can't get anything done. And when you can't get things done, it creates more frustration. And then you end up taking it out on your babies. So if you're honest with them about what you're going through and what you're feeling, it helps them know, okay, I need to pull back, because kids won't stop. We know this, kids will just keep going and keep going and keep going until we're just like, oh my God. But you don't want to get to that point. So if you're honest with them and you're just like, baby, mommy needs, daddy needs, and they're going to be like, okay, they're serious. Let me give them a minute and let me go color, watch cartoons, do whatever the case may be. Now, that's for older children. If you have a smaller baby, it's a lot harder to do, but you have to be able to create time to decompress. Decompressing is essential to get through life. You cannot just always be on go and expect to always be okay. It's not. We're human. You're not going to be okay every day. And so if you feel that, okay, I just don't want to eat, and then the next night, I'm just not hungry, I just, or what I've realized is forgetfulness is a big part of depression. Um, and a transparency moment, I had a breakdown about a week ago, and it came out of nowhere. Honestly, I was at work, and it's just, things went left, and then a conversation was had, and I just couldn't handle it, and it just, everything, floodgates opened up, and I was just like, you know what, I'm not okay. And someone recognized that I wasn't okay. And so when you recognize these things, say it in that moment. Don't wait until a person's at their breaking point, because when they get to that breaking point, they break. And it's so hard to put yourself back together after you have a breakdown. I am so far from 100%, you guys, but this is something I am very open and honest with. And I will always be open and honest, as long as I'm doing this, because that is the whole point, is to give a realistic perspective from someone who goes through it every day. And so that's why functioning depression is such a big topic to tackle, because I have it bad, and I have, been diagnosed with depression. So I have depressive disorder, but it doesn't stop you from being a functional depressed, having functional depression, because I still have to be a mom. I still have to work. I still have all these other responsibilities I have to take care of. And so, no, I may not be having a depressive episode that lasts weeks or months, but I am going through the motions, and I know I'm not okay, but I can't stop. Um, To me, I like to refer to functional depression as superhero mode or superhuman mode, because you feel like you have to carry the weight all on your own and get things done all on your own. And you get to the point to where, okay, I keep handling it, and then it just boils over. And it's dangerous. Those breakdowns can be dangerous from functional depression because it's things that have bottled up. So you're very irritable. You're very irritable. Like normally I was like, oh, when my depression comes, you feel sadness. You just feel this empty feeling. You don't care about anything. But for me this time with my breakdown, it wasn't like that. I wasn't sad. But I was angry, and I've been very angry for a while. And even talking with my therapist, she was just like, "You've been angry. You've been really angry. Everything is just like nitpicking at you, and you hit your breaking point." And so that's what tends to happen when people are living with functioning or functional depression. And a lot of times they refer to it as dysfunctional depression. It has many names and it comes in many ways, but it's still the same thing. And it's still something that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. If you know you're stressed out with work and home life, try to create just that little bubble of space or time for yourself. Like I say, if you have to sit in the closet and cry, or just go for a walk, give yourself 10 minutes of some kind of me time to get those emotions out. If you don't release these emotions, that is what leads to depression. You have to acknowledge them and deal with them. Bottling things up is what we tend to do every day. When we get frustrated at work, it's just like, you know what? I'll just deal with it later. And I know so many of us in the world constantly do that. Like, I'm just not going to deal with it right now. Nope, not right now. Not today. Maybe tomorrow. And there's a meme that says, when you put off tomorrow's problems and then tomorrow comes and you're sitting there like, I got to deal with this. Like, I got all this on my plate because I put all this off. And it's just like, if you go ahead and deal with it, it'll make it a little easier. I'm not going to say it's going to lighten the load completely or make things to where you're not feeling that depression. You're still going to feel it because you're still going through the motions. But if you acknowledge, like, today was just a long day, and I just, today I'm going to choose not to work out. I'm going to choose to go home, read a book, take a bubble bath, and just relax and have a little bit of me time. Or, tell the kids, like, hey, tonight, mommy can't wrestle. We'll try again tomorrow. Mama needs a night. Mama needs a glass of wine. And then watch your favorite TV show and sit there and cry it out. I tend to do that. If I know I need a good cry and I need to get it out, I'll go put on Grey's Anatomy. It's always good for tears. Good Doctor, 911. Any of those shows, This Is Us, get out that cry, and then you go to sleep and you're just like, but you feel a sense of freedom because you've gotten it out. Sometimes it's hard to release those emotions, and so you kind of need something to kickstart it for you. And even for men, crying is completely healthy, and it is something that as humans, I feel you need to cry. A good cry can make you feel just like so relieved. But also sometimes if you're at your breaking point, that cry, it's hard to stop it once it starts. And so that's why you have to be very careful about your outlet and when you release those emotions. If you feel you're at the end of your rope and you're just like, I feel it coming, I know if I acknowledge these feelings, I'm gonna have a day, go ahead and take off of work. Go ahead and just be like, I can't come in mentally, I'm not okay, I just need a day. And that's all you have to say. You don't have to go into detail like I, expressed in the last video. You don't have to go into detail about things that you feel if you don't want to, but you do have to give some kind of understanding and let them know, like, I'm struggling mentally, so that they can be understanding and give you that compassion and time that you need. Closed mouths don't get fed. So if you're not open and honest about what you're feeling, with others or yourself, you can't expect someone to be able to be there for you. And it's a lot easier said than done. I promise. I promise. I promise. I know this, but you have to try. And so when you are going through these everyday things that are overwhelming you, try to find a way to delegate things and break it down to where you don't have to be so overwhelmed. As for me, I've got a partner in crime at work who has helped me tremendously on the days where I'm feeling overwhelmed. And I just need to be like, hey, can you do this for me? Because I just can't do it right now. And so it's just those little things like that can help make that functioning depression a lot easier, and it will help resolve it and get you to the point to where you can handle these everyday battles and you don't feel as if the world is going to just come crashing down on you, because we definitely tend to feel that way. And it's a feeling you just don't want to feel if you don't have to feel. But like I say, I feel at some point in everyone's life you go through depression or you have functioning depression. And if you do, then it's just know it's okay. Know that the storm doesn't last always. It's temporary, but you have to acknowledge your feelings. That is the biggest thing that I would want you guys to take away from this video, is acknowledging your feelings, because that will help prevent a breakdown, and that will help you understand what you're feeling so you can figure out what you need. And you just have to you have to. That's the only thing I can say, is you have to, because if not, it's going to lead to something detrimental to you or to someone around you. And the last thing you want to do is to put off your feelings on someone else. Projecting can be very dangerous and it can be very hurtful. So you want to try to deal with what you're feeling so you don't hurt someone else and cause pain to them. Because hurt people, and stressed people, we tend to explode. You can only handle so much. And so you need to understand your boundaries and understand what you can handle and what you can't handle. And if you can't handle it, know that it's okay. Know that it's okay to be like, I just can't do this right now, or I've got a lot on my plate. Maybe in a couple weeks we can move on to this, or a couple days, whatever it needs. But give yourself time to navigate through the situations you're going through that have you feeling this way, and give yourself time to navigate your emotions. That way you can get into a better mental place. That is the biggest thing, is taking care of your mental, because if you break down mentally, everything else will come crumbling down as well. And so I do have like a little post I made on Instagram and Facebook on Love and Lunacy's pages that go into, the different things to look for with functional depression, and kind of explains what it is and the diagnosis. So take time, go read that, share it, send it to someone and be like, hey, I saw this and I think this can help you. Even if you don't know how to help them, little things like that can help guide someone who may be in the dark about what they're feeling, and help get them to a better place. And have them go check out the website, www.loveandlunacy.com. Like I say, blog post is up, and I also have the post on there as well from the social media sites. They can kind of help guide you. So as you're reading, you're able to put the understanding to what those emotions are. And so I figured that would be great to help so it can create that full circle for someone where they're like, okay, I see this is how I'm feeling, but what does it mean? And so now you kind of have that explanation to what does it mean and what it is. And it can help you figure out if that's something you're struggling with and the ways to help you cope healthy in a healthy way to cope with those problems, because you don't want to react in a unhealthy negative way and then it causes a spiral effect and it can end up being bad for you. So you just want to try to avoid the negative as much as possible. um, so check those out. And then if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Shoot me an email or an instant message on the website or Instagram or Facebook, and I will get back to you. And if there's ever any topics that you guys would want me to go over, please feel free to email them to me or comment what you would like to talk about. I'm all about education and spreading awareness, so the more that you guys give me, the more that we can give to each other. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope this was helpful to someone, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.